Welcome back to another episode of the Devoted Creators Podcast. I have a very special person, as usual, but I'll let him introduce himself actually. So for the purposes of everybody who is listening and watching, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sagaboy!
Come true.
Come all the way through. No, my name is Geoff Cooper. I am the creative director of Sagaboy, and also I wear a million hats, which you know. We don't talk about
Which hat do I wear?
The 10 things that were. He literally was just like, which hat do I wear today? Literally in this moment, like right now, I am creative director, creative consultant. To be honest with you, I'm also working a lot of comm stuff. You know that, and just producing really amazing, beautiful things with beautiful people.
I just spilled water all over myself.
I mean, to be fair, I'm like over here. This is hot.
Sure, I was hot.
Can I tell you? Like now you're like cooling off.
I filled it up way too high.
Oh, I'll tell you something though. I mean, the weeks that I have been having, I am living off of ginger tea with lemon in it.
I see you.
And I'm walking around because people are just like, oh, what are you drinking? I'm like, it's not a flask, trust me. There's no alcohol in this.
Yeah.
Because we drink alcohol in the night, and in the day we literally drink ginger tea and hope to like recover fast enough for the next night.
Now I see you. Sorry, I really interrupted by spilling water.
No, you're fine. Those fine.
All over myself.
So I mean, loads of stuff like creative beast doing a lot of great things with great people. Because for me, it's really about the people such as yourselves.
Yeah. My
bros and my girls were just like amazing and really want to move to the next level. And I'm just like, how can we work together to make this happen for all of us?
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I wanted to call you in to join us for today is, I mean, I've obviously wanted to know about your story for a long time. We've known each other for quite a few years now.
Oh boy.
I think this feels like a really good time in what you're doing with Sagaboy and where you are as an artist, as a creative person. I wanted to guess, at this point, hear about how it started. Where did this all come from?
Okay, so well, it all started in a bucolic but idyllic village called Moruga in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
And I was born in Trinidad, and pretty much as a kid, like I've always been creative. I've always been in my head, having my own world. It's so funny because every time someone asks me where it starts, I go back to me being like 7 years old. This is like, I mean, I can remember things early on, but I remember being 6, 7 years old. And I used to use toothpick and straight up toilet paper and tissue, any tissue I got. And I would literally create this little village. Straight and in there I had the best events. When I tell you, we produced weddings, we produced like, I swear to you, it was Oscar level stuff happening.
Yeah.
I had little people.
You were making movies.
I was literally making movies. I was in my head creating stories because while I am a people person and I've always been a people person, for some weird reason as a child I really wasn't. So I was always alone at home.
Quite introverted.
Very introverted and very much just always observing people. So I had the immense honor, pleasure to have the best people around me, like my parents, and in the village I grew up in. You know, the village really, that saying that it takes a village to raise like a child, that is
You're
so
that
true.
child.
I am definitely that child, trying to tell you. Everybody was just like family, basically.
Yeah.
And so whether we were playing at people's houses, I would still remember sort of like going off on my own and sort of creating ideas. Like I remember there was God bless her soul, rest her soul. There was a woman named Miss Anne, who is like my mom's friend and like my aunt. And I remember I would go to her house, and so she crocheted, which is crazy because I went crocheting, but like, I didn't mean to flog her, or flog this, but literally her house was just filled with these things called doilies, which is like
doilies, yeah. My grandma used to have those.
Oh my God, just all over. And I remember like I'd walk in and like I'd name them, and everyone had like a character. So in my head, I'm always thinking about things like inanimate objects moving or bringing life, like giving them life and saying, okay, well, this is what you're doing, and you're dancing and you're moving and you're atop a mountain. But they also had this swing and this massive tree. And I cannot tell you in my head how many stories I've created, how many things and ideas that I've run through on what that sort of like swing meant and who was there before and how long it was there. So for me, it all started in my head as a kid.
Yeah.
And I still think I am that kid in my head just now in this evolved older body, operating from a space where I'm like creating with a sense of innocence, but a sense of also, I'd say, making the world more lively and better and energetic and just giving energy to wherever I go. So that's me. It's all started in the Caribbean as a kid, just wanting to, I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I literally just wanted to enjoy my time and with my inanimate objects, be toothpick and tissues, or a swing or doilies or whatever it is, I'd be there, and it would be one of those things where I'm like, okay, let's make this moment better. Yeah. I know I'm home alone, I'm home with my family, nothing's going on, the TV's playing, and I'm just like, okay, great, now sorry, this is not working for me. I am just gonna go for 3 hours and create like whole houses, people, and just stories and narratives. So the idea of Sagaboy, it's funny because a saga man is a storyteller. Okay. So a lot of people don't really realize the connections with that. Saga. And what saga really means. For me, it has multiple meanings. So a saga man is a storyteller, but really I'm that boy who's been creating and telling stories since I was like 6, 7 years old. But also Sagaboy in the Caribbean is really a subculture that emerged in the 1920s. And so it was these men who dared, in my opinion, to be rebellious enough to wear what they wanted to wear, do what they wanted to do. They were seen as womanizers. They were seen as just, you know.
Are we talking like kind of the equivalent of like pimp culture and even like maybe the Sapeurs in like Central Africa?
Like a mishmash of both. But also, in that there's this innocence of, also remember we're coming off of colonization. We're talking early sort of 1900s, the end of the 1800s. And what's happening there is we're far gone from emancipation. People don't really know their identities. In the Caribbean, for example, I know we share that, where we come from a lineage of, we know where we come from, but truly who are we as Caribbean people? Because we're this mix of people, right? So here are these guys, and women and men in the 1920s, early to 1910s, saying, okay, I want to wear zoot suits, or I want to just wear like crochet, or I just want to show up and just dance and ramage and bright colors and be that amazing. And everybody's just like stunned because it's like, actually, you're not supposed to. I'm so sorry, you must be proper. And all of this sort of like, to be fair, inspired by the UK at that time, obviously different times, but certainly they were just like, nah, this is a new age. You know, we're coming off of like a war, like let's make the most of this moment. And so genuinely, that's what Sagaboy comes from, Sagaboy. The Sagaboi is obviously because, to be fair, it's good to just like, change things up a bit. Also, the domain wasn't available. So, so I was like, you know what, we got to make this work. Like, we need that word. But so literally, that's where it started, but also very much, that's how it's been continuing.
Hearing some of that, I'm getting strong only child energy. Yeah. Are you an only child?
That is so far from the truth. I am actually the last of like 5 kids, more or less. Wow. I have 2 sisters and 2 brothers, and I mean, my father was a Sagaboy, so I also have more sisters and brothers, if you know what I mean. And so basically, I heard the other day that apparently I have a brother who's like probably a couple months older than I am. Oh wow! And I'm just like, my dad was one of those, you know. But there is the Caribbean men kind of vibes that you get. But I love him dearly. Of course. And so, I have more brothers and sisters, but I'm the last. But I think I'm the last also because, but far off. So it wasn't like my sister's like 2 years older than me. It was like, 10 years out. And so I kind of was on my own mostly because they were at a different age. Yeah. And
they weren't hanging out with you.
They weren't hanging out with me. I was just there. And then my mom, super ambitious human being, love her. She wanted to go to work and she was a nurse and really pushing things forward. And so I end up going to my babysitters, who basically is she's everything. She's my grandma, my spiritual mom, my everything right now. She's still alive. And her name is Olga. They call her teacher in Trinidad. Nice. And I grew up with her, literally. And I was the only kid she had to take care of. So the only child thing does sort of filter in a little bit because I wasn't really around my folks all day. I was really around her, and her kids were like 30, 35. I was like their kid basically. Yeah. And so I was just always there. What do I do with my time when it's not like TV? Because we had like, watching like Indian movies and stuff like that, or whatever was on television. I'd just be there, there's a ball, there's a piece of stick, let's call the stick Tom. Yeah. And so that would be me. So I do think there's some of that, but certainly I'm not an only child, but,
because I think I am an only child. Yeah. And one of the things that I guess that resonated with what you were saying was I had a lot of time to make stuff and make up stuff because I could live my own world. There was no one kind of outside interrupting it. And when you're left to a lot of your own time as a child, you learn to make fun of things, of everything.
So you just said that so perfectly, because that is exactly what my childhood was. Making fun of things, because really you're just there by yourself. There's no other, the kids aren't around, they're all older than you. And so that was just literally perfect.
So when did you come to the UK?
So the funny
and how
thing,
did you come to
so
the UK?
I mean, came to the UK, to be fair, earlier on, back and forth, but to be fair, I went to America first. And so my dad, and I don't know, there's been this huge sort of, in my opinion, infatuation with the US, just because of Hollywood and
the
music.
90s, they kind of ruled it.
They ruled. So everybody was just like, oh, you got to go to America, you know? And so we started traveling when I was around like 8, basically to New York, and staying sort of like an extended period of time. And so the UK came after that, because it was still this natural progression. But really, for me, I started to fully on my own come to the UK when I was around like 19.
Okay.
And so, and then again, when I left sort of my corporate job after sort of like university, I was just like, yeah, we're coming to the UK for Fashion Week.
Okay.
And that just turned into, oh, I really like it here. And I really love like all that's taking place. And then I realized how much like our family had connections with people and with cultures here. For example, this year is the 75th anniversary of Windrush.
Of course.
Like there were 5 families on that ship. One of the families, like whole mum, dad, kids, were the Coopers. And so our family here, they're here. And obviously it's not like, you know, hey auntie, how you doing kind of thing. But then it's just like, whoa, like we have family here that
took that journey.
That took that journey. But also, we were closer with our family in America, if that makes sense. And I don't know why that is. I think the UK sort of like Caribbean sort of connection is an interesting one, to be fair. Whereas I feel like you're more connected with your extended family in America than you are in the UK for some weird reason. And maybe that's just my sort of experience. But yes, came through in my, like really fully came in my early 20s, and just never looked back, because there was just this interesting energy that was happening in London. We're close to the rest of the cities, Paris, Milan, like Germany, you name it. There's stuff happening. And if you wanted to go to Africa, India, Indonesia, like
it's easy.
It's just sort of that perfect space. And so I've just been here, to be fair, and enjoying it. But now I'm just like, not quite sure about London. I feel like I want to go to the countryside. You swear I'm like 50 or some shit there. But like genuinely, in my mind, I feel as though I'm getting into that creative space again of wanting quiet in order to create. And somehow London is so busy that I'm just like, I'd love to be here, obviously, and have an opportunity to just have a space. But also I need to be away in order to sort of expand my imagination, because there's a lot of noise, and the noise does drown out what you really want to do sometimes.
Early on, what were your, because you said your teacher, she gave you a lot of space to create. Who else in that period between, you know, moving over from the Caribbean over to the UK, who else has been along that journey that's kind of given you that space and allowed you to be more you?
To be fair, like my parents are amazing, like bless them. Obviously growing up in the Caribbean, you're dealing with so many different issues, just like identity issues first and foremost, and not just identity in terms of like who you are as a person, but like who are we as a culture as it pertains to the rest of the world.
Very big question.
And that's a big question, right? And so I feel like my mom and my dad were they're super ambitious. My dad was a police detective.
Wow.
And so in many ways, like he would be bringing home cases, murders, you name it, whatnot. And I would always find myself in his suitcase looking at really gruesome, crazy things, which also informed my imagination.
Okay, yeah.
And so,
I mean, there's so many stories in those cases.
When I tell you, it was just like, okay, a lot. Like, I mean, I saw some things. Yeah. And then my mom, she was just such an independent woman, always wanted to own her own sort of way in the house. So never really about sort of like depending on my dad. Like she would be like, nah, we need to do this. We're going here. Oh, I got this. I'm paying for this. And so with that sense of being who they are, I think that sort of, like by osmosis maybe, like I became sort of like a hybrid of that sort of super independent, always trying to push something forward, but also trying to own a space, but at the same time, always trying to solve something, which was my dad's thing.
Interesting.
And so in many ways, they allowed me to just be, because the truth is they needed to be themselves and be all that they could be in their jobs, in their roles as parents. And so they were just like, yeah, you do you. And the other thing is, having kids before me allow them this ease of just like...
Your siblings have worn them down.
Totally. So I wasn't punished like my siblings, thank God.
Yeah.
I also had the opportunity to just have parents who were way more clued up. And so they treated me differently. I was given a sense of just like, I mean, they were like, oh, you need technology, you need a phone. My brothers and sisters was just like, what? Like, why did I not?
Hang
like,
on.
How is he getting to do all these things? But at the same time, I think with my mom, for example, like my eldest brother, super amazing at soccer, football. And was just like, I'm going to, be in the draft. I'm going to go play for Man U or Arsenal, whoever it is. And then he got into the draft, but never got picked.
Okay.
And so that affected him mentally and his education as well. So he was just like, nah, I don't want to go to school, just deflated. And I think my mom saw what happened with him and said to me, you're not playing any sports. Now, I used to play cricket properly. Like, I actually played for on the 17 team, like in locally and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, but I'm like the next Brian Lara. Like, come on,
got
like,
this.
and I'm really good at school. But she was just like, nah, no sports. You just need to focus on your education, because she literally said this to me. And I remember this now. She always said to me, you're not going to be here. And I need to make sure you're ready for the world.
What do you think made her say that?
You know what it is? I think it's a couple of things. It's one, she saw me as a creative child. She knew that opportunity-wise in the Caribbean, and unfortunately this is the truth for so many other creatives who come from spaces and places across the region, is that you're really at the pleasure of the parameters that are locally in front of you. So if there's no funding, if there's no paint, you will use whatever you have. If you're an artist, for example, who's painting, if there's no canvas, you're going to just have to use plyboard.
Yeah.
And so that's the reality of being a creative in an emerging country, in an emerging space, or in the third world. You make do with what you have. And so if you or anybody who your parents think that there's something here that you can be more, the first thing they start sort of pushing you forward is like, you're not going to be here long. You need to leave here. I think also beyond that, who I am, like growing up in the Caribbean as well, we have so many issues around LGBTQIA, if I'm honest with you. And so I think
during Pride Month, we're just ticking all,
covering
all the subjects.
All the boxes. And so being creative, there is this sort of stint where people are like, are you that?
Yeah.
And while my parents never had qualms at all with like that, in the neighborhood around, people would be like, okay, you're in a fashion show. So there are all of these wrong assumptions around sort of men involved in things that potentially would be considered, a woman's landscape. So for example, I'm in fashion, but growing up and being like, oh, I want to model. Little boy, what, you want to model? Like,
yeah.
Why do you want to
look pretty?
Listen, I know you think you're a Sagaboy, but like, that's for women. There are all of these really wrong POVs. And so all of that, because I was the creative kid, I wanted to do everything. I was making things. Can I be honest with you? I literally had suits on those toothpicks and I had dresses. And I would punch them into this. So I had
amazing.
I had cardboard basically, but box, but not cardboard, like basically the brown boxes. So I'd cut that up and I'd basically create like a dance floor, like right here, like a stage. And so I'd use the toothpick, use thread, tie it around, make like little trust me, I was making sort of these massive sleeves, dresses. I had a wedding, there was a lot going on.
Incredible.
And so I would punch them in at 7 and 8. By the way, this is what I was doing. I'd punch them into the cardboard because they'd stick, so that's why I use toothpicks. Or actually, the truth is, before I even elevated to toothpicks, I was actually using something called coquier flex. You know what that is? So the brooms that are made of the coconut. Yeah, so we call it coquier. And so, which I need to figure out where that comes from, by the way, because I actually love that word. But, so I was using coquier flakes. That's the local twang for it. But that's like a toothpick, right? And so I'd break these hard coconut sticks from the coconut branches and punch them in. And so I'd move people around the boards. I think my parents looking at that, my siblings looking at that, my aunts, my uncles, my family looking at that, they're like, why are you putting a dress on a toothpick?
Yeah.
on a piece of stick? Yeah. And why is there 10 dresses? And literally this was happening at 7 years old. What's going on with that guy? Oh, it's a suit, is it? And in my mind,
you can see it all.
I can see it all, but also I wasn't creating with limits because they were real to me. These characters, they were so real to me, which is scary. Sometimes I wonder, what does that say about people who are crazy? Because they spoke back. And I was having full-on dialogue about so as a producer, as somebody who's been producing things, and we've worked together on projects, it's the same energy that I've had since I've been 7 years old doing that. But long story short, sorry, not to go off on a tangent, I think around the aspects of questioning your identity sexually, questioning your identity in terms of culturally, there were all of these sort of like ideas that I think parents struggle with children who are creative. And so my mom probably was just like, nah, you right now, you need to be out of here. So I know by the age of like 20, you're gone. So she always knew that.
She saw it from
even
early.
when I was graduating. I remember primary school. She was already looking at options for me to like travel abroad. I remember I was 14 years old, and it's the first time I did the first trip, like on my own. I went to Brazil, I think it was.
Wow.
And
It's a big place to go by yourself at that age.
And I wasn't traveling with anybody.
Yeah.
And my mom, again, like, would be such the force behind how you're
She was
going.
sending you to stay with family or friends.
By the way, I'm now in therapy for like the past 2 years, and can I be honest with you, all of these things were scary beyond means.
Yeah.
And I'm not realizing how that also messes with you. So I suppressed all that to be like the macho guy going to Brazil.
Of course, yeah.
But like, I'm young. And so, but my mom is like, nah, you got to do this. This is happening because of this development program. And then I remember I went to Washington, D.C. with this thing called YLC. Again, my mom going, I got the money. I got you. Jump on that plane.
Yeah.
I'm like 15, traveling alone. And I remember being in Turbulence on the flight to Miami. And these are things that come back to me now because I forget these things, right?
Yeah.
And the plane was like going, and my stomach was just like gone at that point in time. And I'm like 15, I'm like, am I gonna die?
Yeah.
Suppressed all of that, showed up, did what I needed to do, came back home. And the amazing part is, like, now I'm realizing a lot, my mom was pushing me.
Yeah.
And at a very young age, I think she just knew that if you are to manifest this cardboard that you've been punching sticks into with clothes, and like I was creating, listen, I had speaker boxes, you should see things. Some of my friends locally, we used to make little small boxes out of clay. So we'd take clay from the backyard and put it in the sun and then etch it away. So that would be the boxes.
Crazy.
This is the stuff that's happening. And I've never actually had this conversation with anybody. So thank you, by the way, for bringing these memories back. But I'm like, I think she knew if you needed to manifest this imagined space in the real world, there were limits that I could not necessarily do that in Trinidad and Tobago. And it's, for me, one of my sort of like big sort of charitable sort of influences right now is helping young people, helping people in general manifest their own sort of imaginations and making it reality, to be fair.
So for you, traveling was a huge component in developing what you've done so far. And
absolutely.
Like you said, you didn't recognize the fear that you might have had at the time, how it impacted you. How now, looking back, did that fear impact you? Because you never really had a chance to confront it.
Yeah, like, to be fair, I'm still having them. My therapist is over here going like, bro, you need to confront the fear. I'm like, no, let's just not do that. Let's leave them where they are.
Box closed.
Let's keep Pandora's box where it is. But no, all jokes aside, to be fair, fear for me is just like any other emotion that can be used to really push you to the next level. So it's either you sit there and you go, I'm scared. But I mean, first of all, in the plane, like, you can't go anywhere. So it's just like, you just got to stay there.
I mean, you can be like that dude that opened the door and just...
I was too weak then. I couldn't imagine that. I was just like, what do I do? Okay, well, I just got to surrender, because that's the power, by the way. So I'm fearful, but then in my mind, imagination stepped in again and really comforted me with the sense of, listen, if I can get on a plane at that age and the turbulence going up and down and we're not dead yet, there is a greater force at work here that is going to keep me sane and keep me safe. And that is something that has been instilled in me since I was 2 years old, because like I said, my babysitter, my mom, my everything, she's my second mom. Basically, I grew up with her. She was the mother for church. Okay. So basically, I was always like holding on to her like skirt tail, literally, as a kid, 2 years old, walking around, seeing all these people in, and when I tell you, like, straight up, when you say you go to a Baptist church, because she was the mother of a Baptist church, I was seeing people doing all kinds of things.
I can imagine.
That, trust me, was fearful, because you're just like, why are you screaming? Yeah. Why did he just run around the church, run back in? What's going on? Why are you speaking like that? Is that a language? I don't know that language. I'm trying to even understand English. So I grew up in that kind of environment where the understanding of there is this supreme being, be it you call God, and then the other thing is also being in the Caribbean, we are this melting pot of multiple cultures. My mom's side is East Indian, so I grew up sort of in some ways for Diwali praying to Mother Lakshmi, and so I understood the Hindu side as well. So I'm there. That's the crazy part, is understanding that no matter the avenue, there is a greater force at work, however you call it, her, she, whatnot. And so the fear factor for me, and how that helps me, is that when the fear comes, I'm able to ride that really quickly, because I'm just like, nah, we got this. Not because I got this, but because, listen, God is good there. Because I can't do anything. I'm in a plane. If it blows up, I can't do anything. So I might as well just be like easy and calm, which is crazy, because I remember at the show a couple of weeks ago in London, it was manic. These environments. And everybody, I had like 10 people come up to me and said, how are you so calm? Like,
where are you finding the calm in that madness?
And that is what, for me, where I find it all the time, is all these experiences where the fear is in you. It cannot go away. It's there. And I'm like, listen, make room, have a seat, let me sit too. That's really where I'm at. It's there. I'm not going to say go away. It's not going away.
Yeah.
So you might as well just make yourself comfortable. Have a seat, literally with the fear.
I think that's not an easy thing to do, though, because a lot of people in that situation, it's quite easy I've had a panic attack before. Yeah. It's quite easy to become overwhelmed before you're even aware of what's taking place. Have you had those moments where it's actually been too much? Or
absolutely.
How do you deal with that?
So, talking about panic attacks, the reason why I have a therapist now is because it got too much. It's gotten to that level, and I'm like, oh boy, we can't manage this. Why am I feeling like this? Why do I know nothing's wrong, but yet I feel like this? And
that's part of the torture of it.
Yeah, it is. And it's just like, what's going on? But now, and trust me, even if you want to surrender to the greater I am, trust me, panic attacks, I don't know, there's something that just does not add up. They say, hey, what's going on? I'm feeling this right now. Can you help me? But the truth of it all is that I think after having multiple experiences, you teach yourself to be okay with the moment until it passes. And so with shows, because I've produced so many shows and had so many mishaps or failures and, wins as well, you just go to the point, you go like, what you can control, you control, which is you. What you cannot control, you just watch, smile and say, okay, I'll be right back. give me 1 second, yeah? I'll be right back. And I probably told like a million people that day, I'll be right back, thank you, I'll be right back. Because I'm just like, I can't do it with you right now. I can't help you, I can't control the situation. So I'm gonna just go do what I know I can do. And so that's how I kind of like navigate like the fear, is the understanding that everything's gonna be okay, because something's got me. I mean, God, got me sorted. But literally at the same time, you're a human being having this experience where there's not this embodiment of a celestial being watching you, and you're walking around going, oh yeah, did you see God right there? Oh, he got me, he's right there. She's got me. It's just over there waving. Oh yeah, that's, I'm good. No, that's all here. And so you're like, okay, whoa, how do we get through this? It's knowing that it's going to be okay. And two, making sure you literally need to pivot to the things you can control. Anything you cannot control, leave it alone, because it is going to keep you in that moment of frustration. And so I remember the day of the show, something didn't show up. I think it was like the mirrors for the makeup artist or something like that didn't show up. And I remember somebody was like, oh my God, we need the makeup. And I'm just like, yeah, where's Argos? Can somebody go to Argos? Yeah. It's been paid for, we just need to pick it up, thanks, bye. Like, I'm gone. Like, let's keep, because if you stay there,
you can't sit in it.
You can't sit in it. You pivot. And a lot of people kept saying, how are you so calm? The models were looking at me just like, bro, how are you so calm? Because I'm not operating like a major luxury house, like, a Louis Vuitton or...
Not yet.
Not yet, Let Pharrell do what he needs to do. One day,
he's just warming the seat.
Listen, one day. But it's not a major luxury house where you have this apparatus and staff and support and unlimited budget, right? You have to make do with what you have, which is how we grew up. I had a cardboard.
You've come from that.
Listen, I didn't have proper perforated cardboard that was, made in China.
The same perfect toothpicks every time.
And I was over there going, what we got coquille flakes, it will be a toothpick today. And so you make do with what you have. And I think one of the most powerful things about coming from a space where you never grew up with plenty, had enough, obviously, great. We all obviously know what it is to have a struggle or not have someone there for you, not have support financially or otherwise. One of the most beautiful things about that, and I have friends who are rich and had it all and have it all, and I see it all the time, is that you can get shit done, pardon my French.
You can, though.
And you literally, people just go, how do you do that? And I go, what do you mean? Like, that is literally that in a different color or different, form or material. Let's just use it. It's going to hold up. And it held up. Now, break it down. It's fine. We did it. And somebody else would sit there going like, oh no, I need that brand of what it is.
Yeah.
And it needs to be aluminium because aluminium, and I'm just like, bro, we got wood.
Yeah.
Break that
what
stick.
What can we do?
Let's make it happen. And that is there's that spirit that, for me, like, I obviously, my post as I say that, I obviously grew up in a space in the Caribbean where I saw that happen every day. I saw my uncles. My uncle, his name is Fenton, called Uncle Fenty. John, like, he was just so good as a carpenter. There was nothing in his house. Like, he was building everything. I remember I'd visit, and I would be just in awe at the shelf that he built using, sort of like driftwood that just came up on the beach. Yeah. And my mom wasn't really that kind of girl. Like, she needed more pristine. She's like, no, let's get this from the local store. It was just, but I was sitting there going, the driftwood looks good,
Yeah.
And now
I like that look.
To be fair, it's an aesthetic thing. But my uncle did not, in real honesty, aesthetic was not what he was not. It wasn't about whether it looked good. He needed wood. That's driftwood. Get some nail, get a hammer, and all of a sudden, this beautiful piece that, in my mind right now, if you see that at like Soho Home or like some major sort of like interior store, is worth thousands.
Oh yeah.
And here he is just building that from his hands.
Just being practical.
And that's the beautiful thing, I think, from coming from less, is that to do more with the less that you have than folks who just have it all and it's just like, actually, I need this specific thing. Even in terms of like, for example, having a show or an event, you're like, oh, well, we need to have like the right PR on it. And I'm just like, well, what does the right PR do?
Yeah.
If you can't afford the right PR, right? Or
what do they do that you can't
do? Why do you need that person? Oh no, we actually need that person. I'm like, really? Like, look at what they just did. Like, can we not do that ourselves? And so I've always been that person, but I am realizing now every day that as you grow, that no longer becomes something you can continue to sort of like tap into. You need to start putting things in place, structure. You need to make sure you have the right team, the right people, the right resources, and the right materials in order to do things at a level that it withstands the test of time.
That's the power of delegation.
Yeah. I'm learning. I'm not great. I'm learning.
I struggle with it a lot because there's many reasons, but I struggle with it a lot, partly because I have trust issues. I just don't trust people to get the job done to the standard that I would set for myself. And I know that's ridiculous because there's loads of people I know that are way more talented than me, and I still wouldn't give them something without really poring over it for a while. And then I go, okay, just get out of your own head, give it up. I'm trying to get better at that. Like,
we all are, because you know what it is? Well, I think for us, because we know each other, and for most people who have had to work really hard to do and get the things that they've gotten, to build the skill sets that they've built, to understand excellence and to create excellence, and then have people go, oh, that's really excellent, right? When you've done all that, you literally go back and you go, I have to be the one to do that again, because obviously the trust is you step in and you're just like, oh my God, we can't. How are we, like, no, I don't think she can do it. I don't think he can do it. I just have to do that. And the truth of it all is what I'm learning now is that you got to see yourself as that person that you're giving the job to, because somebody gave you that at one point. And we forget that we were given the opportunity. We forget that at some point somebody said, yo, I actually need your help. and you came through for them, right? And so you have to trust that the same way you came through for that person, or whenever or whoever that was, that person that you're going to delegate to now can actually deliver. It's not always the case, and you will be burned by a lot of people who just, they're not us. But there are those people who you're going to create a tribe, and I really believe this, of people where you just go like, bro, I need that done. Can you edit this for me, for example? And you know it's going to be so good that you can sleep tight at night and just be like, in the morning it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the goal for all of us, to be fair. But the truth is, getting beyond the trust issues of like, if somebody's not going to mess you up, because you know how important something is, it is a challenge. But I think it's that thing, right, that I just mentioned about you're here, you cannot control this. You know what you need to do in the moment. You have no time to do the 10 other things.
Yeah.
You got to trust it's a greater, and it's not even about, like, for me, spirituality or God. There is a greater energy that is going to sort you out through the person you're delegating to. So I tell people now, when I ask them to do something for me, I go, hey, can you do this? And they go, oh, yeah, I can do this. I said, but I need this done in an hour. Can you do it in an hour? And the thing is, I actually don't need it done in an hour. You know what I do?
You want a sense of urgency.
That is what, that sense of urgency gets them going. But also, if they mess up, I have another hour or two. The trust issues are there, but we gotta manage it, right?
Yeah.
If they mess up, I got 2 more hours where I can go, actually, you know what? No, you do it this way. Or even I go, actually, just leave it alone. I got this and that. Because in the moment, you can't do everything. But at some point, 2 hours later, I might be able to. So I'm like, can't you do this for me now? And so I'm learning to always try and create a sense of urgency, which I guess may not be healthy mentally, to be fair. But the truth is, when people know they need to get this done in an hour or 2 a day, they get it done, and you get to edit. You get to say,
how about this?
Let's switch it around a little bit, and that process is what creates excellence. And so it's always for me that sense of urgency. So every time I'm always running, I'm like, people know me, I'm notoriously on time.
Yeah,
right?
always.
Always on time. But it's because we're doing so much.
Yeah.
And I've come to the point now where I used to be really bothered about, obviously I show up on time where, most times, but there are times where you just don't show up on time. And so many on my side. And so I've really come to the point where it's when you show up, bring your full self. And I give that to people as well. I don't really get where people get upset anymore when people show up late.
In some ways, I think it's better to arrive when you can be most present than to stress yourself out, get there earlier on time and not be there 100%.
Absolutely.
That's why, for the same reason, when people, say I've made plans with someone, even if it's something like going to the cinema, and we plan to meet early and grab a drink, but they couldn't make it for whatever reason, when they do arrive, I'm not stressed because I'm like, well, they're here now. So what are we going to do now? Not what could have happened, because I don't like to fixate on the past very much. So it's like, if someone's running late, well, maybe I'll have a drink by myself. I don't get to do that very often. So let me have a drink by myself and do some people watching. I love that. It's better than just stressing out about, where are they? Keep watching my watch. That's not fun.
I've been around people who stress out. And I'm trying more and more to not have those people in my life. And I'm being really honest. Nothing against them. They're good people, And I actually have love for them. But I'm like I said, out of my life. I'm not even trying to limit exposure. I'm like, that energy is going to stress me out. And I realize now how detrimental stress is to our bodies and our minds.
It kills us.
It kills us, literally. I think, for me, the cause of cancer is stress.
Has to be.
Like the things that I look at now and I go, okay. So when people start stressing around me, I go, I'm going to be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'm out. So if we're running late, we all know we're running late. Can you stop stressing? We cannot control the car. We cannot control the traffic. This is it. But when we do show up, please make sure you are your full self. Please make sure you're present and you're bringing 1,000% all of you and all of your skills and your excellence. And we're late, but it's gonna happen. And I love the fact that the people, our crew, our tribe right now, really, honestly, all of us, we're so chill. We're so and I think people, they wonder, how do you get stuff done so great? It's because when we actually show up, we're there. We're not thinking about the 50 things that, somebody's over there, oh my God, I'm late. I'm like, However, I'm not gonna be that person going show up late everywhere. it's really those moments where...
But it's not for no reason as well.
Yeah, it's never for any reason.
I'm not just sitting at home taking my time.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of juggling
People go
five
up,
things.
you know, like I'm on my way. So, you know, there's that meme where they go, when someone says they're on the way, they're actually in the shower or just getting up. And I think for some reason people believe that, you know, like, no, I'm not getting up. Actually, there's 10 other things going on, or a call that came in from a family member that is very important that I needed to be present for. And so for me, I'm learning to really, you know, you're right, limit my exposure to people who stress out a lot, because, you know, I've been fortunate to have amazing people in my life, but also unfortunately have those people pass away, and a lot of them from cancer. And I it's something that I keep looking for. What's the thing that is that correlation? What's that thing that connects all of what's happening? And I've realized, it's stress.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, you know what? Today's not the day for us to be like getting sick or ill. I'm like, when I see you, joy is in the room. Because I'm just like, we here. And a lot of people, I think, for me, I also think that's why we get things done, how we get it done. I also think that's why you can wake up in the morning with like a level head and not stressed out. But trust me when I say to you though, that did not just arrive. That has been years of dealing with, you know, stress and processing all this stuff, where you just go like, wow. I'm not gonna lie though, in a really great way, I do believe that every moment of your life prepares you for the future. The next thing that you're gonna do tomorrow, like, you've been prepared for it now. But the conversation we're having now might just be something that inspires a thought that puts you somewhere tomorrow mentally to be able to do something for somebody or with somebody tomorrow. Yeah. And that is, I'm realizing now, this amazing conundrum called life is very much, that's a big thing. It's like, something's happening today, you're being prepared for tomorrow. And I'm not saying that like biblically, or people get so religious about these things. No, but like literally, like if we look at it as physics, just like science, right? It's like the only reason you went through those 10 things, the reason why you made those 15 mistakes, those 20 typos, it's because now when you're writing this one letter or doing this thing, you're aware of the things that, for example, I have a problem when I'm typing really, really fast, where like for some weird reason I put 2 T's in certain words. Yeah. And I know that now. So when I write now, it doesn't happen anymore. Because I literally go back and I go, there you go. Yeah. I see you. Yeah, cool, I see you. You know, but you know what to look for. And I actually talk to the words right now. I go, I see you. You. But it's one of those things you process so quickly. But if I was stressing out about that like 10 times, I'm like, actually, you know, the other thing is, because I'm typing so fast all the times, and I send somebody, I go, I love salutations. I think it's a beautiful thing to ask somebody, how are you, and hope you're well. And can I tell you, the P in that hope, somehow, when I'm typing fast, just disappears. Just ho. And it just goes, how are you?
Shout here calling everyone hoes.
Can I tell you, 2 years ago this started happening, and I'm like, what's going on in my brain? I am reading hope. I am reading hope you are well. But the email that was sent is, ho, you're well? And I'm just like, so it's those things that I'm like, you're prepared. Now I never send emails like that because I'm so aware of it now.
Well, next time you call me a hoe, I'll be like, okay, I know where this is
that's what he meant. Like, that's what. But now I literally, before I send an email, it's that automatic. I just go, it's missing. Why is that P always missing? Yeah. But all jokes aside, you know, I really believe that all the things that and I'm so grateful. You brought me back to like a moment in my life where I've never really thought of that cardboard, that cut up piece of cardboard, and those cocaine flakes and toothpicks as having any relation to anything I do now. And now I realize more than ever, 90% of the things I do comes from that space of
That's
creation.
Hilarious. You turned Sagaboy into a magazine at one point. Yeah. What was the process of creating a magazine like? Where did you start with that?
So I went to school in New York, and out of school, I was gung-ho at becoming an investment banker. Okay. Because I knew they made money.
Money's a good thing to have.
That was it. I did not enjoy, I was great at finance. I went to school, I studied finance, accounting, a little bit of art, publishing on the end of it, right? And so I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be a banker. And then I got an internship at the bank. Oh boy. I was good at it, really good. But like, I was coming home at like 11, 12 at night, back in the office at 7.
It's not healthy.
It's just not at all. And I mean, it was great because like they fed us, right? We had everything at our beck and call. But I remember being like this does not make sense. The money is like, there must be a better way that I am living a better life and enjoy myself. So I left that, started to work as a junior consultant at the Big Fours, PwC, and doing really amazing sort of SME work. And so that was amazing, but again, similar times. I'm going early, I'm leaving late. My life is literally work. I would work on weekends. But here's the thing about me, I enjoy working. Like, there are people who do not like working.
Yeah.
I enjoy working. And again, I think I have that same syndrome, that only child thing. I enjoy working by myself.
Yeah.
I enjoy working with people.
Do you like the independence?
But I need to move away from people at some point and just be like, guys, can you give me 3 hours on my own? And I'll come back to you guys with the same energy and the same job, but I just need 3 hours. And so I used to work weekends, not because I had to, but because one, I did want to impress my bosses, but I felt like I didn't even want to go out. I'm like, I'm at the office.
Yeah, and it's quiet.
Sundays, I'm telling you, I'm there, happily there. But that's not sustainable. And a couple of years in, we were paying this exorbitant insurance every month. I never went to the doctor, didn't take really holidays. And I went for a checkup. And at the checkup, this is the whole cancer thing, by the way, stress. So this is my sort of, interaction with it. And I'm like, I'm sure I'm healthy, but I've been feeling really lethargic. I was feeling lethargic for like a couple months. Went to the doctor, and like 3 days later, she called me back. She goes, oh, can you come back for a bunch of tests? And I was just like, sure, what's going on? She's like, oh, have a seat. I was like, when you hear have a seat, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die.
No,
what's going on?
I'm dying.
So I sat there. She said, your blood works came back, and it's just very all over the place. So I'm gonna take some more blood. But I need more blood than I took the last time, because now I need to do run different types of tests. Great, call me back. We need to refer you to a hematologist. So I then got referred to, and I call his name all the time because like he's amazing, and his name is Robert Gelfand, which is I don't even know if he's alive anymore, but basically renowned hematologist in New York. And I was like, I need the best. I mean, my insurance will pay for it. Went to his office, took blood, like you test. Came back, you may have a rare blood disease. What do you mean? Now, the funny thing about it is all of this is happening, and I don't have any family that I'm having this conversation with. I'm not telling my parents, because I never like to stress them out. And so I'm always careful for stressing anybody around me out unnecessarily.
And is that because you know there's a cost to that stress?
And because I know there's a cost. And I find with people, and I'm going to go on a tangent here because this is such a powerful thing, right? And that's why I say to you, these people I try to get out of my life. Because the cost is too heavy, in my opinion, of people who give you stress or make you stress out for no reason. I'm like, my parents are not going to hear about this until I know what the hell is going on with my body. Yeah. Tests. I started to pull back. At this point in time, Oprah was still on. Listen, Deepak Chopra, I was meditating the full shebang. And the interesting part with that is, after a month and a half of just tests and trying to figure out things and taking different pills, it turned out that I had a form of anemia that would be exacerbated based on stress. So this was affecting my bloods. Yeah. My crazy work schedule, working hard, doing the most, and I was partying hard. I didn't mention that too, but I was. And so, I was moonlighting as a fashion writer. So this was my entry into fashion. So I was covering shows and writing for back then was like John Simon Daily, doing stuff pulling into Esquire, like all that kind of stuff. So I was doing like 2 jobs, 3 jobs in my head. Yeah. And I founded a charity then, by the way, called Calabash. And we were raising money for young people in the Caribbean and doing all that. So it was just a lot going on.
That's a lot.
But I was really happy. I was very happy. And so that is happening. And then they say to me, oh, you actually don't have a rare blood disease. In the time when that happened, I decided to start volunteering for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Because I was just like, if I have leukemia or lymphoma, because they had to rule those things out, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
And I was like, oh my God, okay, great. I am not dying. I thought I was going to die in 6 months. Really, I actually really had that thought. And it stressed me out. And then they said, well, you need to just be aware of how much you work. But then the other fact is that when you do work, you must enjoy it. Because you can work hard, and it not stress you out.
Yeah, if you're enjoying yourself.
And that's where I realize now what I'm doing. I was like, I need to find the thing that I enjoy, because I like working hard. but that's not going to kill me.
Fair.
And finance was not it, let me just tell you. And so I decided to launch a magazine back then, again about the Caribbean, called G Caribbean. And started actually to travel a lot. So I left, I remember my bosses called me in for like Christmas time and said, oh, I was on 4 clients at the same time, by the way. John, this is unheard of for someone at my level, by the way. But I was so good at what I did. And I was so adept. I like being the person that just has the info, I have the tea for the job and for life. And so my boss called me in, and he was partner of the firm, and he said to me, his name was Chip. And he goes, oh, we're onboarding, something just happened with GM. And this is the levels that's happening.
Yeah.
And we're onboarding some new client, and we need you here for a couple extra days. No, I'm carded to leave to go to Trinidad to see my family at that point in time for Christmas. No, can you push it back? Can you come back earlier? And I'm just like,
no,
this doesn't make sense. Long story short, 2 weeks later, I'm out. That's it.
You left.
Grateful for the opportunity, all that I learned. I left, launched a magazine with a few friends of mine. And then we basically were like the GQ of the Caribbean.
Amazing.
And did that for 2 years, traveled a lot, came to the UK, did Milan, you name it, Paris, whatnot. And that's when I really started to realize, whoa, I like this world. And just dove in head first and never looked back. And Sagaboi, which is the question, like all of that coming back to it, one of our partners at G Caribbean basically did something super shady. And that ended the whole thing. And I thought in that moment, I was just like, actually, you know, I would really just like to make this a bit less structure, less intense. And so Sagaboi became the blog, my blog, which I would be Sagaboi opining on stories, this boy telling stories. And we started working on a magazine. I swear to you, like when I think of all of this, the magazine at that time, in my opinion, would be the only, and it was the only, multicultural men's magazine in the world. And we worked
Which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
At that time, literally. Yeah. But people don't remember these things, and obviously back then,
now you take it for granted.
You weren't given an award for doing that. I was just like, I see I see me in all of these, in all of these models, in photographers. And you know we roll with like a gang of photographers, my street style boys, like all this. And I'm like, I want to celebrate what we're doing because we're here not... Because the fashion landscape, I'm very, very sorry, isn't as diverse as people would like it to be, even today. And even after Black Lives Matter, even after George Floyd, even after all of this push and what for me was a fad for a lot of brands, you know, we saw people sort of get support and then all of a sudden the support's gone. We have influencers right now complaining. If you Google, you see the news, they're complaining that they're not even given opportunities. But the brands who really can get it, they're continuing to do it. And I do think there needs to be a proper diversity award structure in place that award brands who are really doing the work and to also just call out brands who are not. But long story short, we created this magazine, which was Sagaboy S1. And a team of amazing people came together, paid loads of money for the print. And when we had the launch, this guy's on the phone going like, it's on a truck coming down from, you know, Birmingham.
Yeah.
One of the biggest printing scams in the UK, we were involved in it.
You've got to be kidding me.
We never got the magazine.
That's crazy.
And so loads of money spent. And that mentally, when I say there are levels where things were panic, there are things that just push you to, because we work so hard. I'm talking, like 172 pages, like a proper book. And I should have actually brought that today because we ended up finding the printer that the guy scammed, or these people. So they seem scammed the Prime Minister's office, by the way, in the Mayor of London. Like, there was a proper scam. And so we paid them the money up front to get things. We never got the print. And then we found this printer in Turkey that sent us a DM on Instagram saying, we printed your stuff, but, you know, we've not been paid. I'm like, but we've not gotten anything. And they sent us a copy of the magazine. They sent us a few copy boxes. When we opened the magazine, these guys literally probably printed like 2 pages or something like that in the book, and they were like confused why we didn't send all of the pages. But the scammers didn't care whether your stuff was printed, they just wanted your money, right? Long story short, I just felt that at that time, us putting out a magazine that was decidedly diverse in men's fashion, we had an editorial done called the Top 33 Black Male Models.
Interesting.
Right? these models right now, Alton Mason, who is the Alton Mason right now, bless his heart, love him. Alton, we interviewed Alton, we had pictures, because back then, this was not in focus. They weren't in focus. They weren't appreciated. They were marginal. And so even like, I look at like sites like models.com, they never focused on diversity in that way. And I will say that to them, and you can look back. I mean, we can look back because the technology can tell you. And so I remember where they didn't even have like a roster of boys. They probably had like a few. And we were like, we're going to celebrate the top 33. I worked with Marky Miller, who is a casting director, casting don I call him, who just said, these are the guys, these are the ones we need to feature. And we interviewed them. All of them were featured in the magazine. Tolu Coker, who is now amazing designer, we had this sort of like takeout page at the end. She did an amazing letter to herself, which is funny. I'm going to reach out to her and be like, do you remember this? Pierre Mpele, who is now the editor-in-chief of GQ France, or editorial director as they put it now, because things have changed up, obviously, at GQ. He wrote a piece about the black male body and the black male gaze. And so we had all of these amazing people. Can you imagine, from like, this is 6-7 years ago, contributing to a magazine, because we never saw ourselves in fashion in that way. Loads of photographers, loads of editorials. It never got printed. And somehow in my head, this story of unworthiness, of, oh yes, takes me for something to happen. Like, you know, like these thoughts of just negativity came, and it was just overwhelming. And I just thought, I'm just gonna quit. Sorry, I just need a moment. And I stopped Sagaboy as a magazine. Because one, I didn't have the money to go fund again. Because again, we're funding a project that's diverse when diversity is not like in focus. And so we ended up doing a party. I remember that. We didn't have the magazine, but we definitely had a party. And after the party, I remember getting up the next morning going, shit, where's the magazine? What's going on? Everybody was emailing this guy. This guy scammed everybody. Just phone numbers stopped working. And I thought, I'm just going to step back from that. And we did some light work digitally. After that, we tried to push all the content that we had in print online. And then we thought to ourselves, like, everybody was just like deflated. You know, it affects you.
I can imagine.
And right after that, I started working with the Evening Standard as the men's-style editor for the Evening Standard Insider. And that just became more of, let me just do this. And then I started doing loads of influencer stuff. And so over the 2.5, 3 years of doing other things outside of Sagaboi and still going in there, putting up an editorial or two, I thought to myself, what's the message here? Because it can't be that you're not loved, you're unworthy. If you have a business, you're going to fail, or somebody's always going to like mess you up. It can't be that. Like, that's not, because I had time to think, it's not productive, but I also had time to sort of process what that was. I thought, maybe it's not about media for Sagaboi. Because I knew I knew these guys. Can you imagine these men in the Caribbean? It was about the clothes. And I thought, let's move Sagaboi into a full-on menswear brand.
So what I'm hearing there is two very key pivots. One from making your own magazine, having that, you know, kind of almost stolen away from you. The opportunity and the promise of that, the potential of that moment was almost stolen from you. Instead of sitting with that, you pivoted to working with another publication and building up yourself as Geoff Cooper, which in a lot of ways has created the ground for you to pivot now back to Sagaboy, but as a fashion brand. So tell me now, what's the journey of Sagaboy as a fashion brand?
Ooh, to be fair,
you've done 2 shows now, right?
Yeah, so we've done 2 shows at London Fashion Week. There is a pending invite for another Fashion Week, but let's see where that goes. The trajectory before us right now is really, and the intention is to create clothing and accessories, wares that lifts and elevates the wearer. Like, it's energy, the warmth of the region, the color, the craft, the texture, all of that I want people to embody. When they put on a garment from Sagaboy, they should feel like, yeah, oof, I feel good. Because that's that confidence that these men in the 1920s tapped into. Despite their situations, despite not having the ability to afford the suits, they made it. Despite saying blue, the color blue was, you can't wear that bright blue. They were like, I don't care, I'm wearing that white blue. Go to my tailor, make this for me. These men tapped into a certain level of panache and confidence, and the women around them did as well, which were the Saga gals. They were all seen as rebellious, and obviously those who were more religious decided to paint them at, you know, oh my God, you know, they're so rowdy, they're so rude, they're so crass. They were just decidedly themselves and wanting to do what they wanted to do and be more.
It's unapologetic.
And so that is for me what our intention is, to really make clothing and give that energy through what we make to the wearers of our clothes. I think one of the biggest thought I've had now is that we've never really seen a luxury brand come out of in terms of men's fashion or women's.
Other than Rihanna.
Well, Fenty.
She's the luxury brand. If you
well, to be fair, listen, Goddess Rihanna first and foremost, because you know we must let's address her appropriately. She is our goddess first and foremost. I love Rihanna beyond means, but Fenty, when she did it with LVMH, that didn't continue, and now obviously she's had loads of brands. So I am waiting for a brand. I was like, that can literally people can go to and go, that brand. It would be amazing if it's Sagaboi. But certainly at the same time, I'm like, I just want to create and give our creations, give the energy through our creations. So there are all these thoughts around, oh, we'd like it to be a luxury brand. But for me, it's just the simplicity of making amazing things and placing and giving amazingness to amazing people.
Interestingly, you wouldn't necessarily, you know, an outsider looking in wouldn't necessarily think of Fenty as a Caribbean luxury brand. Yeah. Because, you know, Rihanna's obviously has her vision for what she wanted that to be, and it's become what it has. But one of the things I really like in the two shows that I've seen and the collections that you created for London Fashion Week was there's so many little nods, even in the way you put the shows together. You know, I remember in the first one you had, you know, these old posters that were kind of like almost Windrushy vibes. Yeah, yeah. The old posters of like people, like date of birth and where you came from. You try to weave that story, kind of your village, your heritage, into everything you do. How do you do that and make it luxury? What, from your point of view?
Ooh, this is the thing. That is not an easy thing to do, because the notion and understanding of luxury is a very Western thing.
Very European-centric.
Very European, right? And so we're always looking out Caribbean excellence and luxury and all those things. It's always looking at it from the outside in versus from the inside out. And when I think about our experiences, I mean, you have loads, obviously, through your sort of, you know, heritage as well. For me, when I look at our stories and the things that we were able to experience at our mums, our dads, our grandparents, and our ancestors, I see the fact that nobody else in the world having that as luxury. Yeah. And so it is a luxury to us. Maybe we don't see it as such, but the truth is, nobody's walking around with access to cocaine flakes. They got toothpicks. Now, somebody may say a toothpick is a refined cocaine flakes. Yeah. And I'm like, you could say that, but this is more artistic. And the value here for me, I create value on the things that others may not necessarily see as valuable.
But I think another great example of that is the thing you mentioned about your uncle with the driftwood. Yeah. That's a perfect example.
Can you think about somebody else from Europe getting driftwood from the Caribbean and making a coffee table or like a shelf? Yeah. That would cost what, like 15,000,
at least,
80,000. But this island man who did the same thing, nobody knows about him, in his house, that the value is the same product, it's just packaged a different way. And so for me, how we try to, and I say we because it's not just me, it's a team, right? Small but little but talawa, basically, not strong and mighty. Let's say in true Caribbean Jamaican form, little but talawa. Literally, and for those who don't know what that means, it's, little but mighty. Yeah. And so we're a small team, but we're always thinking about how we package us. And so the first show, putting all of those sort of like arrival cards and immigration cards from old, just all over the place. We created a box. We created an exhibition, basically, where we allow people to come into our space as we are us. and the galvanized, and the corrugated galvanized, the corrugated cardboard, all of that was allowing people to go, whoa, okay, we set the stage for what you're about to see. The second show done at the Museum of London, which obviously now is a lot bigger than the small space that we used the last time, but the history is there. It's in one West Indian key where sugar, where so many products from the Caribbean were stored, rum, you know, all of the different things that our ancestors would have worked, toiled hard to create, came through there. And so as we try to expand how we now bring that together, we say, okay, well, we're doing it at a museum, which is a luxurious thing in itself, right? But it's us there. You know, we decided to call the collection Fresh Off the Boat. And people were just like, why? Because, you know, when you and I say fresh off the boat, we know it's a positive thing.
And we didn't step off a boat.
Thank you. You know, and we did not. And we did not. But certainly it's just like, if you're fresh, you're coming fresh as that, you look so amazing, you look so great. And so I think it's constantly thinking about a certain level of finesse around our cultural offerings, be it paper, be it fabric, be it music, be it the models that we use. It's always, how do we finesse this in a way that turns it into, that really allows the same value, just like the person who's sitting in Paris is doing the same thing, but just doing it in Paris. All of a sudden, it's way more. We're like, we can do that too. And so, you know, when one of the songs for the show, it just came to my head. And it goes like, is we who does mash up the place? Is we who does mash up the place? Ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, oh. And, you know, it's all of that. Like, I'm hearing and I'm like, yo, that's powerful.
Yeah.
You're never going to see that in Paris. Yeah. And because you're never going to see that there, that makes it luxury.
Yeah.
Because it's exclusive to us. And it's this self-appreciation, this self-awareness, this self-acknowledgement of our culture that, for me, is at the core of luxury. It's saying you are worthy and you are worth it. And standing with that confidence of Sagaboys from the 1920s, because they were confident as hell. Nobody could tell them that they were not, like they were dressed inappropriately. They would just look at them and just, yeah, that's what you think. I know. Sorry.
I know who I am.
And that, I know who I am. And for me, confidence and luxury are just the two things. They go hand in hand. And so for us, when we decide to say we're going to do crochet, you know, all made by women in the Caribbean, they made this. If you walked in to Paris and you saw two folks making something, you know it's going to cost you. Yeah. When we look at brands such as, you know, Dior or Hermes and Louis Vuitton, and the work, the savoir-faire that they put in to make what they do, it's the same with what we're doing here now. We're just saying we know the value and we're asserting it in the most confident way. You know, I don't ever want for Sagaboi to be seen, and if it does, we'll always try to change it as best we can, in this kind of pastiche sort of way, in this sort of like, you know, you just come off the boat.
Yeah, you don't want it to be ironic.
No.
Or
no,
cute.
No. For us, it's like, no, actually, we just came off the boat, yeah? You know. But what came off the boat is quality. Was handmade. It's luxurious. It is an offering that is so culturally potent in 2023 that it allows us to say it's luxury. And it is. Because it's different. It's unattainable for those who are sitting in Europe looking in.
True.
And that we get to bring that here and assert our culture in the most finessed way.
An intentional way as well.
An intentional way, because it all starts with the intention, is what makes what we do luxury.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful way to put it. Before we end, I wanted to, you touched on something because he was here last night doing a lovely shoot with some of his collection, but you touched on something that I thought was really interesting when we were listening to some of the music. You talked about how you've thought about doing music because you hear things in songs and you think, I could improve that in some way. It made me think of something that I spoke about a long, long time ago. Actually, it was when I was applying for my degree to do journalism. And it applies in this world as well, but I said that, you know, maybe you'll recognize it, is being a journalist isn't something that you do, it's something that you are. Yeah. I always wanted to tell stories and find out more and answer questions. It's just, I don't know why. Even before I knew journalism was a job. Yeah. But I think the way I feel about it now is that extends to the creative world as well. Yeah. No one ever told you to create. It was just something
That
in
is
you.
true.
How do you see, because there might be people here listening who, they work in finance right now. What would you say to those people to shake them out of that and maybe get them to dare to try something different, maybe fashion, maybe music? What would you say to those people?
Well, first I'll say YOLO. Time is waiting on nobody, and you really only live once. But YOLO from the standpoint of actually YOLO, you only live, really thrive, really be in a happy space, because to live is not to exist. You only live once, and you live for you. And so the folks who are sitting there with gifts to offer the world, with gifts they were given to offer the world, but are afraid to say, I'm going to leave that paycheck, that consistent sort of, monthly salary. They need to understand that the more time they waste, sort of waiting to decide when the right time is, it's, oh my God, and the best, oh my God, okay, sorry, I need to actually go back, because the person that actually said it best is Daniel Ashram.
Okay.
And the quote that, and I literally have this up now, my pause is actually, I think about it, is the longer you wait for the future you want, the less time you have to spend in it. And that, for me, is exactly what it is. So you waiting to experience this amazing future with the gifts that you've been given to share, the longer you wait, the less time you have when you actually get to that. And so I think for all of us, it's let's be about that business, that sense of urgency, of getting to that moment of joy, of living, so that we can actually live there longer.
Yeah.
Because if you wait 10 years to launch the thing you've been thinking about 10 years ago,
you've lost that time.
you lost that time. And when you sit there, you just go, oh, I shoulda, coulda. Yeah, but you didn't. So YOLO, and really, bless Daniel Ashram, I'm a fan, but also when he wrote that for his first fashion show that he did recently, it just touched me and spoke to me so much, because I was just like, whoa.
Mind blown.
I was just like, no, honestly, I was like, rah. Like, actually, the longer you wait for the future you desire, the less time you have when you get there. So if you're waiting, if you're sitting there somewhere right now thinking it is a fashion brand, it is a studio, you want to be a photographer, whatever it is, you need to be about the business of doing that now, so that you enjoy more of the time when you actually arrive at the space that you've been looking and thinking about. Because think about it, if you had 80 years on this earth, and it took you 50 years to get to the thing you really wanted to do, you only got 30 years left. And truth be told, your body at 50 is not your body at 25.
They're not your best 30 years.
It's not your best 30 years. So if you want to really live and enjoy the future that you imagine yourself living, be about the business of attaining that now. And I do think for a lot of people, it is smart to sit back and save money and, make sure you
Be strategic.
Be strategic. I do think, though, a lot of people, though, don't have the luxury of being strategic, because they don't have time to waste. Because it's, my granddad used to say, luck is very much preparation meeting opportunity. But if you never leave your desk, how are you meeting opportunity? Opportunity is passing by you. Your opportunity is passing down the street.
Yeah.
You're at your desk. You need to go and meet opportunity. Leave your desk. Leave the job that literally is keeping you from that one moment that will change your life. And maybe for a lot of people, they're like, whoa, you're preaching madness. But it is crazy to think yourself more. It is crazy to do more, to think yourself worthy. It's a crazy thing in a world that tells you shouldn't. So for me, when I think about the Saga boys and the Saga gals in the 1920s, they were considered mad, actually crazy, for doing what they did, for wearing, most of the Saga boys ran the steel panyards.
Yeah.
Now we have fetes and festivals. We have carnival as a business. We have Nottingham Carnival, as you know, as a business.
Multi-million pound.
Multi-million pound business that came from a bunch of guys and girls that decided we're just going to throw a party. And everybody who's been, worshipped on Sunday morning and went to church, nothing against my Christian family, God bless you, because he's blessing us too, because I am that. But you have the people who went to church going, oh, they're so wayward, they're so this, they're so that, and they're so possessed, and it's the devil in them. But yet, these are the things sustaining families right now. And not only sustaining, thrivingly doing it in a way that is thriving. And so you have to be crazy enough to dare to think yourself worthy of delivering the gifts you were given. And whether that be, I don't know what it is, like it could just be that you want to start your own talk show, go buy that mic. Or this mic, by the way, is everything. I'm just going to say, like, I don't want to, like, this is everything. But, like, genuinely, go buy the mic, go buy the camera, go buy, you know, the recording instruments, start doing this in your house. If it is creating clothes, start cutting, start sewing. Like, for me, I'm doing pattern cutting right now, can I tell you? And it's amazing for me. When I think about clothes right now, I don't look at clothes as garments. I look at
the pieces.
Shapes. I literally think, how do we put this together? And so it's these kinds of things that 5 years ago I would not know to do nor think about. But now I look at things in a really interesting way. But more importantly, I am just overjoyed. And as you can tell, my trajectory has always been a guy, a kid, a boy from the Caribbean wanting our culture to be appreciated, acknowledged, and lauded the way I see it, as excellence, as luxury, as everything, as just as Europe and the rest of the world. And so that we get to bring clothing to the fore through Sagaboi and do things culturally immersive and culturally linked to our culture in a way that is embraced as the best of it, as a luxurious, as quality, is the joy of my life. It literally is. And I cannot say that enough, because what it means at a deeper level for me is this recognition of self, of who you are, being worthy. And I think that's the one thing I can tell people all the time, is you have to think yourself worthy and worth it. And that is what we do at Sagaboi. And that is what I live to do wherever I go.
I think that's a beautiful note to end on.
Oh, amazing. This was everything. Thank you. I'm still in my cardboard phase.
So just before we completely wrap, could you tell people where they can find out more about what you're doing, follow your socials, all of that? Absolutely.
So first, what I'm doing, which is Sagaboi, you can find us on Instagram, online, sagaboi.com, Sagaboi official on all handles, IG, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, you name it.
Sagaboi.
Sagaboi, not Y.
The other one wasn't available.
The other one wasn't available. But also, it's nice to be slang, you know, to be fair. Cool. The slang of boy is amazing. And then for me, I'm Geoff K Cooper, Geoff K Cooper. You can call me Jeff, Goff, not Geoff, and not Goff. Just spell it right, literally. That's my thing. Because people call me Jeff. And obviously, I answer both Geoff and Jeff. But genuinely, find us online and get in touch, because the truth is, like, I'm just interested in stories right now. Like, people going like, right, I just did that.
You want to hear more?
You know, because that is what gives us the fuel to. And I know you too. You're like, that inspiration is everything.
Absolutely.
But thank you beyond words for having me.
Thanks for coming
I'm so
on.
grateful
I really appreciate it.
to be on the couch here with John Devo. Literally.
And thank you guys for listening and for watching and for all your comments. I've been getting some really nice feedback from some of the other episodes. So if you haven't heard any of them or seen any of them, please check those out. But in the meantime, I guess I'll see you guys in another episode. Stay well, be safe, and peace out.